Tramp. Oomph. Serena's face tightened, and she muttered the word under her breath, causing Jasmine to shoot a discreet glance her way. I haven't even said anything yet, so why is she already mad? She can't be after my little brother. Can she? This is getting dangerous. A flicker of annoyance sparked in Jasmine. She reached a hand under the table and gave Cole a sharp pinch on his thigh. Hiss! Cole sucked in a sharp breath. He knew exactly what was happening, but put on an expression of utter confusion. The only one who remained relatively calm was Luna, though the muscle between her eyebrows was twitching relentlessly. Flirting with my brother right in front of me. How shameless. The diners at the surrounding tables stopped looking over. They had no idea what a headline today's show was, but when even Tyler, whose family owned the gravel pit, backed down and let himself be dragged away, they knew better than to stare. This wasn't a group to mess with. The minor disturbance didn't ruin their appetite. The sizzle and pop of the barbecue flared back to life, the air filling with a rich, smoky aroma of grilling meat. Then, almost in perfect unison, the three women made their move. Cole, this is for you, Jasmine said, placing a perfectly grilled lamb skewer onto the small plate in front of him. Cole, I grilled this for you, Serena said, standing up and reaching across the grill. In her hand was a skewer of glistening chicken wings. You should eat this. It's cooked just right, Luna offered, gently placing a skewer of marinated beef on his plate as well. Cole quickly took the chicken wings from Serena, not wanting to leave her hand hovering in the air. His mind raced, processing 1,000 different scenarios in half a second. He placed the wings on his plate with the others, then forced a grin at Leo. Huh, all my favorites. See, Leo? I don't even have to lift a finger, and I'm drowning in food. Huh. Under the strange, confused gazes of Leo and Cora, and the expectant, unreadable stares of the three girls, Cole made his move. He picked up the lamb skewer, took a decisive bite, and then placed it back on the plate. Chewing thoughtfully, he praised, that's grilled perfectly. He didn't dare use a pet name. Sis and Lou would have been fine, but he knew if he didn't call Serena babe, she'd be hurt. And calling them all by their titles would make him look guilty as hell. A small, satisfied smile touched Jasmine's lips. He ate mine first. Gritting his teeth, Cole picked up the chicken wings, took a bite from one, and set it back down. He crunched it loudly in his mouth. Crack, crunch. He ground the bones into dust before he managed to speak. Really good. The flavors soaked all the way through. Serena offered a reserved, sweet smile in return. Finally, Cole moved on to the beef skewer, strictly following the order in which he had met them. Wow, really chewy but not tough. It's tender and flavorful. A gentle smile bloomed on Luna's face. She was just happy he liked it. The three women's gazes occasionally converged on Cole's face, then darted away, subtly scanning the others. Jasmine felt the least pressure, as his sister, grilling a skewer for him, was perfectly normal. The other two, however, felt the tension mount. All three of them sensed what was happening. It wasn't enough to start a full-blown war, but their female intuition was screaming that something significant was unfolding. Jasmine was already on high alert, fully prepared for this kind of battlefield. Serena and Luna, however, were just beginning to feel a sense of guardedness, or perhaps not even that, just the nascent realization that the other girls also seemed to have feelings for Cole. After all, shouldn't a director grill a skewer for her CEO? Thanks to Cole's calm under-fire performance, he hadn't given away any sign of favoritism. The three women had no concrete reason to escalate their vigilance. Still, it was enough to make him sweat. From then on, he avoided the one bite from each strategy. Instead, he picked up all three skewers, used his chopsticks to scrape the meat off onto his plate, and created a mixed grill. His mind, however, was already on to the next problem. I have to get them to build some kind of solidarity, and fast. Managing a household is like running a company. Cohesion is crucial. It minimizes internal conflict and focuses our energy on external threats. And there was only one surefire way to create cohesion: immense external pressure. I hope the enemy shows up soon, Cole thought. After a moment of brief, awkward silence, the atmosphere came back to life. The conversation started up again, though every now and then, a meaningful glance would flash across the table. Cole, for his part, kept eating, thinking, and contributing to the chatter as if nothing had happened. By the time he'd finished the meat on his plate, the lamb skewers he'd been grilling were ready. He had to return the favor, right? He picked up 2 skewers, one in each hand, and placed them directly on Jasmine's and Luna's plates. Try mine. This immediately caught Serena's attention. Her eyes began to fill with a hint of grievance. Cole grabbed 3 more skewers, stood up, and offered the first one to Serena. Here, try this. I'm a pretty good cook. As she instinctively took it, he immediately passed the other two to Leo and Cora, one to his left and one to his right. He sat back down, smiling inwardly. Perfect. Who could possibly say I'm not impartial? Sure enough, none of the girls showed any sign of displeasure. Serena's pout vanished. As long as she wasn't being ignored, it was fine. After a taste, they all gave him a thumbs up. Not bad. Delicious. The seasoning is just right. To avoid any further crises, Cole appointed himself the official grill master for the rest of the night, taking over all cooking duties and generously distributing food to everyone. He even paid extra attention to his buddy Leo, who was practically overwhelmed by the sudden favor. The rest of the meal was, all things considered, harmonious. Afterward, they split into 3 groups, each heading home in a different direction. Cora, naturally, walked with Serena. Serena, are you really not going to apply for the government internships? Cora asked, still in shock. For someone from Serena's family to pass up that path, to become a legal consultant for a startup, it was a huge sacrifice. The whole evening had left a deep impression on Cora. She'd always thought Cole was a good guy, but now she saw he was more than that. He was the kind of guy girls dreamed of ending up with. Not because of his looks, but because he just felt so incredibly reliable. This wasn't about her approving of her best friend's choice anymore. It was a no-brainer. Besides, she knew she didn't stand a chance. Cora wisely held back from asking about the other girls. She knew if Serena and Cole were close, every word she said would get back to him. She didn't want to get on his bad side. She didn't want to turn a promising connection into a wary stranger. Still, knowing the Shun family, she wasn't optimistic about their chances. She could only hope that the two of them would find a way to be together. I'm not applying. It's not the right fit for my personality. I'd be miserable, Serena said, shaking her head decisively. A longing for the school semester to start flashed in her eyes. The holidays felt like a war, keeping her from spending any time with Cole. Yeah, I get it, but your family. You're going to have a fight on your hands. I know, Serena said, but I'll figure something out. The two girls chatted as they walked. That night was New Year's Eve. In Linden Creek, the big celebratory dinner was in the evening. The Chens and the Yangs celebrated together, a lively, boisterous affair. Jasmine and Luna both helped prepare the food, while Cole had finally earned the right to sit with the two older men and talk business as an equal. After dinner, they had to stay up until midnight to light fireworks before going to bed. After watching the New Year's Eve specials and a few other entertaining shows, the three of them went downstairs to set off their own display. For Luna, it was the first time she had ever celebrated the holiday like this, and a smile never left her face. New Year's Day arrived. As soon as they woke up, a problem emerged. Jasmine had to go with her parents to visit their elders, but she was worried about leaving Luna behind with Cole. What if his family pointed at Luna and said, "So, this is Cole's fiancée?" What worried Jasmine even more was that in 2 days, she had to go to her maternal grandparents' house and stay overnight. What if some vixen tried to steal her little brother while she was gone? Ugh, this was so stressful. After breakfast, Jasmine put on a faint smile to hide her anxieties. Luna, why don't you come hang out with me today? It was a compromise, the only one she could think of. She would take the biggest threat with her. In the kitchen, Cole's parents overheard and understood their goddaughter's intentions perfectly. They exchanged silent, amused glances. The antics of these young people were kind of adorable. As for Cole, he was suddenly deaf. He didn't dare object. Besides, he trusted Jasmine to take good care of Luna. Oh, but Luna hesitated. It felt wrong to tag along while Jasmine was visiting family. Plus, she wanted to stay with Cole. No buts. It'll just be me and a couple of little kids over there. It's no fun by myself. You can keep me company, Jasmine said, taking Luna's hand with a smile. Well, Luna looked conflicted, her eyes darting toward Cole. He just gave her a gentle smile. It's fine. Go have some fun. You'll be back for dinner. Since Jasmine had already made the offer, it was best for him to play along. Then, okay, Luna finally agreed. She really liked Jasmine, so spending the day with her wouldn't be so bad. Let's go. We'll head to my place first, then leave from there, Jasmine said, a triumphant little glint in her eyes. The immediate crisis had been averted. She turned to Cole and instructed, Cole, don't drink too much at lunch, and you are not allowed to touch a single cigarette. I know, sis, Cole answered obediently. While Jasmine was in the bathroom and his parents were in their room getting gifts ready, he slipped over to Luna and captured her fruity lips in a fierce kiss. After being kissed, Luna instantly felt more at ease. It was just that simple. Later, Cole went with his parents to his uncle's house in the next county. His father drove a used Volkswagen he'd had for 3 or 4 years. The family visit went as usual. They didn't mention Cole's company, not wanting to seem like they were showing off. While his day was relaxed, Serena's was shaping up to be far more severe. In the state capital, at the Shun family villa, the Shuns had originally come from Rockford before moving to the capital for business. Now, the whole extended family was gathered, David Shun and his two siblings. David was the only one with a single daughter. His older brother and sister each had a son and a daughter. With more than a dozen people, the house was buzzing with activity. Serena's grandparents were still in good health. After the women went off to play cards, Serena's grandfather called her into his study. Seeing her father was also there, she knew immediately that this was about her. David Shun looked at his daughter. "Serena, your grandfather has a friend whose son is getting his J.D. Grandpa was wondering if you'd like to meet him, maybe ask for some advice." As a son, he couldn't disobey his father's wishes, and he knew his daughter well enough to know she'd refuse. This law student was the son of a minority shareholder in a long-established local public company. David understood his father's motives and even suspected his brother or sister had arranged it. But he wasn't stupid. He made sure to specify it was her grandfather's idea. He wanted to remain the good dad. He wasn't taking the blame for this. Old Mr. Shun's face twitched. It would have been better to just say it himself. While the Shun family was connected to the Helens through marriage, the Helens mostly just supported David. They stayed out of his business affairs. But the business world had its own rules. With a powerful new ally and the Helens as a backdrop, the Shun family business could soar. "Meet him?" Serena asked, her face a mask of polite curiosity, though a flicker of disappointment darkened her eyes. She was disappointed in her grandfather, and in her father, too. "Serena, you're both studying law. I just thought you might be able to learn from his experience," old Mr. Shun said, taking over with a kindly tone. He was being cautious, afraid of upsetting the soul link to the powerful Helen family. "Grandpa, I don't think that's necessary." A faint smile remained on Serena's face, but the girlish charm had vanished. She wasn't a fool. This wasn't about learning from experience. It was a blind date. Before, she might have just gone along with it. Her grandfather had always been good to her, and she wouldn't have wanted to refuse. But now, she belonged to someone. She was someone's babe. It's always good to make connections. He's a driven, motivated young man. "I'm sure he could give you a lot of good advice for your own applications," her grandfather pressed, surprised. His granddaughter was usually not this direct with her refusals. "Grandpa, I really don't think I need to. I'll be working with Professor Chun at Eastwood University. She's a doctoral advisor and a member of the National Law Society. I don't need to borrow anyone else's experience," Serena said with a sweet smile, acting as if she hadn't read between the lines. This put her grandfather in a difficult position. That was a solid reason, one he couldn't easily argue against. He looked at his son, but David was staring at the floor, feigning exhaustion. After a moment, old Mr. Shin coughed and tried a different tactic, speaking in a joking tone. "Serena, the boy is handsome. Really handsome. Tall, good-looking, and his family is worth over $1 billion. You don't want to make a new friend?" "Grandpa, I don't. I'm still young. I haven't thought about those things," Serena said, beaming with an air of pure innocence. Seeing her reaction, her grandfather sighed. "Fine, we'll put this on hold for now. If you ever change your mind, Grandpa can arrange it." "Grandpa, if that's all, I'll go back out now." "All right." Serena glanced at her father. As she left the study, she thought to herself, "I will never change my mind." Being born into a family like hers meant facing these kinds of arrangements. The higher up you went, the less control you had over your own marriage. You could date, but marriage was a transaction. She considered herself lucky to have her mother's family as a counterbalance. If she were purely from a business family, it would be hopeless. She'd be trapped not just in an arranged marriage, but in a battle over assets. But that luck came with its own burdens from her mother's side. Before, she had followed the path her mother laid out, and she had been prepared for it. But things were different now. She had her own choice to make. When she returned to the living room, her uncle greeted her with a wide smile. "Serena, he's a great young man, the heir to one of the main shareholders of Chufo Medical." "I'm still young," Serena said with a polite smile, knowing her uncle was definitely involved. Her uncle's smile faltered for a second before returning. "Why not? It's not a blind date. It's just meeting a new friend, perfectly normal. You're both even studying law." "There's no reason, Uncle. I just don't want to meet him, and I don't want to make new friends," Serena said, sitting on a lone armchair, her eyes conveying a friendly but firm boundary. "Serena, this is a good opportunity for you. It's always good to learn from others' experiences," her older cousin chimed in. Serena lowered her head, her expression on the verge of cracking. Frustration swelled inside her, a familiar feeling of a heavy stone pressing down on her heart. Only this time, it was heavier than ever. Her entire family was trying to interfere in her private life. She had never despised her identity more than in this moment. Besides being comfortable financially, she had no freedom at all. It seemed that kindness from her grandfather's side of the family always came with a price tag. Her aunt, who had been playing cards, walked over, leaned on the sofa, and stroked Serena's hair. "Serena, no one is forcing you. We just thought it would help make your studies easier. We've met the Cheen family's boy. He's 6'1", handsome, polite, well-mannered. Not some nerdy bookworm. A friend like that can only be a good thing." "Auntie, please stop." "I don't want to," Serena said, desperately suppressing her emotions. She didn't want to lose her composure in front of her elders. She just wanted this day to be over so she could go home. But after she got home, she'd have to go to her maternal grandparents' house. In the past, she'd have been happy to go. Now, she just wanted to get back to campus as soon as possible. The frustration continued to bubble up. Her uncle and aunt exchanged a look of frustration, but didn't press the issue further. After 2 tasteless meals, Serena finally returned home with her parents that evening. Once she was in the shower, her parents sat on the sofa to talk. Helen Shun let out a soft laugh. I told you Serena wouldn't agree." David Shun gave a helpless, bitter smile. "What was I supposed to do? Dad insisted I ask. They're so used to doing business that their vision is limited. They have no idea how big the world really is," Helen said, her tone sharp and dismissive in private. "Don't you dare get involved with their schemes in the future." She wasn't surprised by any of this, but she had faith in her daughter. If the girl she had raised would accept such an arrangement, she'd be utterly ashamed. There was no need to oppose it publicly. "Don't worry, you think I don't know that?" David nodded. He glanced toward the bathroom, his expression conflicted and hesitant. Helen immediately saw that something was on her husband's mind. It involved their daughter. "If you have something to say, just say it. Stop stammering. It's just about." David didn't know if saying it would be a good or bad thing. "Spit it out, or I'm going to get angry," Helen said, swatting her husband's arm. "Okay, I'll tell you, but you have to promise to stay calm." "Can you do that?" David asked, looking at his wife with concern. He conveniently forgot his own initial explosion of anger. "Just say it," Helen said, a bad feeling creeping in. "It's just Serena. She might be dating someone," David finally managed to say. "What?" Helen shot up from the sofa. Whoa, sit down." David glanced toward the bathroom, urging his wife to keep her voice down. "Are you serious? Did you see it with your own eyes?" Helen's eyes were flashing, the corners twitching. This made David nervous. If he told her everything, their daughter would be in for a massive lecture. He knew his wife too well. If there was a gold standard for high-pressure parenting, the head of the local education district in front of him exceeded it. Walk with measure, sit with poise, don't speak while eating, don't move while sleeping, read more, speak cautiously. His wife enforced every rule of conduct she could think of, not to mention the academic requirements. She had poured everything into molding the perfect child destined for a high-level career in law enforcement or the judiciary. A daughter dating in her first semester of college was absolutely not part of the plan. If she found out a boy had his arm around Serena, sniffing her hair, she would go ballistic. His wife's vision for Serena's partner was an outstanding youth, and not just any kind of outstanding. An ordinary kid wouldn't even be in the running. It wasn't prejudice. It was about not being worthy of their daughter. David started to panic, a pang of sympathy for his daughter rising in his chest. Despite his inner turmoil, the long years in bureaucracy had taught him to keep his expression calm. Not a flicker of emotion showed in his eyes as he made a split-second decision. He shook his head. "I didn't see anything, it's just a suspicion. Remember what I told you last time? She just seemed to have that girlish glow about her. Just like you did when, you know. Then she's definitely dating someone." Helen's chest heaved. She glared at her husband. "Who was the classmate you said she came back to campus with?" "I don't know him. Tall kid." Of course, there was nothing physical. They were just walking together with 2 of her roommates, David said, lying through his teeth. He was almost impressed with himself for covering for them. If he didn't, his wife would absolutely track the boy down. She wouldn't do anything drastic, but she would definitely try to have a talk with the boy and his parents. That punk. I'm going to have to deal with him next time I see him." If it weren't for his position, he would have gone to the boy's house himself. "Tall." Helen's expression was stormy as she tried to recall and confirm. "Don't jump to conclusions. Maybe it's nothing. It's normal for classmates to walk together," David cautioned. "I'm not jumping to conclusions. I just want to confirm it. In a little while, you should make yourself scarce," Helen said, her voice now calm and steady. "All right, fine. Just be careful. Don't push her," David sighed, not sure if telling her half the story was a good idea. But keeping it all inside had been eating at him. He stood up, and went to his study. When Serena came out, she dried her hair as usual. Her mother was watching TV on the sofa. Her father was gone, probably in his study. After her hair was dry, she was about to go to her room to text Cole. "Serena, come sit with Mom for a bit," Helen said, her voice gentle and unreadable. "Okay, Mom." A thought flickered in Serena's mind. She has something to say to me. She sat down next to her mother. "Serena, I've been so busy since you came home for break. I haven't had a chance to check in with you," Helen said, taking her daughter's hand and patting it. "Mom, I'm all grown up. It's okay. I know you're busy," Serena replied, already bracing herself for what was coming. This was her mother's opening move. "Are you settling in okay at school? How's the Law Society?" "I'm used to it. The Law Society is fine. Have you met any impressive boys? There are a lot of talented people in college. If you have, you should tell me about it." "Impressive? No, they're all pretty much the same." Serena mentally exempted one person from that category. "The day your father went to see his old mentor, didn't you go back to campus with Cole Chun?" Helen asked, her expression soft, like the perfect caring mother, but her eyes were fixed, not missing a single flicker of her daughter's expression. "Huh?" Serena looked completely baffled. "No, Mom. I went back with a classmate, just a regular classmate. It was on the way, that's all. It wasn't Cole." Her heart tightened, but she forced her face to remain placid. She felt like an undercover agent deep in enemy territory, willing herself not to betray a single thing with her eyes. "And I was with my roommates. We weren't alone. It wasn't Cole?" "Oh, I must have misremembered. I thought it was your high school classmate," Helen said, feigning a moment of realization. She suspected it was Cole, but her husband had only said he didn't recognize the boy. Otherwise, she would have already gone to talk to him. "Mom, you're overthinking it. I'm not going to date anyone before my junior year," Serena said with a hint of playful complaint. Serena won't date anyone, she thought, but Babe will. "You're right, I shouldn't have guessed. I'm sorry. I was just worried you'd get distracted," Helen said, having observed no sign of deception on her daughter's face. She figured it was one of two things. Either her daughter really wasn't dating anyone, or her mind was now so sharp she could completely suppress her emotions. She didn't really believe the latter. Her daughter had never been able to hide things from her. The two continued to chat about school. Helen hadn't given up, occasionally dropping a sudden, probing question about relationships into the conversation. Fortunately, Serena navigated them all safely. By the time she went to bed, Serena finally let out a breath of relief. She was mentally exhausted and fell asleep the moment her head hit the pillow. She thought it was over. It wasn't. Early the next morning, the family of three flew to the capital and were taken to her maternal grandfather's home. It was even livelier than the Shun household, with over 20 people, young and old. Here, David Shun was the most junior member. Serena's two uncles were both high-ranking officials in powerful government departments. Even her oldest cousin was a department head, the same rank as her father. Despite being family, her uncles would only chat briefly with David. They still held a bit of a grudge against him for whisking their sister away all those years ago. If not for him, she wouldn't be just a county-level education director. But time had passed. They would lend him a hand when they could. In a corner of the living room, Serena faced her second wave of interrogation. The interrogator was her older cousin. Just over 30, she was already a district attorney. Her husband was neither in politics nor business. He was a professor at a prestigious coastal university. The two of them sat sipping herbal tea while everyone else kept their distance. "Serena, are you really not dating anyone?" her cousin asked, a hint of disbelief in her voice. "I'm really not," Serena said, shaking her head like a pendulum. "Babe is dating someone. The Serena who is visiting her grandparents is not." "Good. It's better that you're not." Her cousin's expression relaxed, and she began her lecture. Relationships in the early years of college are usually just about following the crowd. It's easy to waste your time only to find out it's not the right fit. And boys at that age are mostly immature and selfish. Being with them can be emotionally draining. Arguments and fights are the norm. If you're going to have a boyfriend, it's better to wait until you're older, until you can see things more clearly. Someone who is mature, ambitious, emotionally stable, and has an interesting soul. That's the best partner for life. Mature, ambitious, emotionally stable, an interesting soul. It was as if a fog had been lifted from Serena's mind. Isn't that a perfect description of him? He is mature, he is ambitious, and he is incredibly emotionally stable. And his soul is extremely interesting. A memory, buried deep, of him doing something particularly interesting resurfaced in her mind. It was back in 8th grade. One day after school, she was waiting in her father's car while he and her mother went to the market nearby. Bored, She looked out the rear windshield and spotted Cole. She also saw a group of older teenagers in an alley, shoving a middle school student. She saw Cole lean his bike against a wall, shout, and charge in. Serena clearly remembered her shock. She stuck her head out the window to watch, her mind conjuring images of a hidden martial arts master fighting for justice. And then Cole was pinned to the ground and getting beaten up. She panicked. She didn't have a phone to call the police and was about to get out of the car to yell for help when she saw the teenagers run off. The student who had been rescued was already long gone without so much as a thank you. She thought about going over to check on Cole, but his next actions stopped her. He jumped to his feet and yelled, "Don't run. Fight me one-on-one if you have any guts. Ganging up on me doesn't count. You're all cowards." After yelling, he touched his bruised face, winced, and hobbled over to his bike. But he didn't ride away. Instead, he pushed the bike around, looking left and right, until he found a slightly uneven patch of ground. And then, he simulated falling off his bike. He flopped over onto his side, letting the bike fall on top of him. Only after that did he stand up. He even checked the dust marks on his clothes and practiced the falling motion again, as if to perfect it. Finally, grimacing, he got on his bike and rode away. At the time, she just stared dumbfounded. She didn't laugh, even though his desperate attempt to save face was ridiculous. She felt like she was seeing this boy, the one who was always right behind her in the class rankings, for the first time. He was usually quiet and didn't joke around, but she never would have guessed he was so kind and brave. He even had to invent a plausible excuse to explain his injuries at home. Back then, Serena didn't know what a crush or a liking was. She just felt like she had discovered something fascinating. She even wrote about it in her diary. It was probably still in a box of old books somewhere. Thinking about it now, it was hilarious. Lost in the memory, Serena couldn't help but let out a giggle. Giggle? Hmm? Serena, do you have a different opinion? Her cousin was completely baffled by her reaction. What's so funny? Is she disagreeing with me? Is she being dismissive? No, not at all. I just think those qualities are very interesting. You're right, cousin. I completely agree. That's why I'm not going to start dating so early, Serena said, adopting a thoughtful expression and nodding firmly. Deep inside, she was whispering Cole, "Your babe misses you so much." Memories of her time with Cole played in her mind like a movie. The way he teased her with his eyes was still in 1080p HD. Her heart hadn't started fluttering because of his clumsy attempts at a smoldering gaze. It had started fluttering long before, which was why she had so willingly let herself be teased. A kind, brave, proud, and very good-looking person had once again bravely knocked on the door to her heart with just his eyes. It was like a scanner that only recognized a single iris had finally found its owner. It was like they had matched a secret code from a past life. She had unlatched the door for him herself, allowing that thief to break in without any effort at all. At the time, she had even been a little dramatic in her own head, finding excuses for why her heart was racing. Then, with innocent steps, she had walked right into what he thought was his own clever trap. That love letter. She wasn't the one who turned it in. She had stolen a glance at the beginning, her face flushing and heart pounding, and had tucked it back in her book, planning to read it properly in bed that night. But when she came back from the restroom, the letter was gone. At first, she thought Cole had taken it back and felt a pang of disappointment. She never imagined it had ended up in the hands of their homeroom teacher. In that situation, whether she had handed it in herself was impossible to explain. Luckily, her Cole had remained calm under pressure. Yes, the kind of person who was incredibly emotionally stable. As for arguments and fights, she hadn't experienced those with him yet. Maybe she should try to pick a fight with him someday. But what if he just kissed her instead of arguing? Serena pouted slightly, feeling terribly troubled. Her cousin, assuming she was listening intently, continued her lecture, playing the role of a master psychologist. 3/10 of Serena listened seriously, while 7/10 of Babe smiled at her memories. It was all very harmonious. That night, the sound of fireworks was incessant. Cole took Luna downstairs, and they set off a whole box. All the neighborhood kids gathered around to watch. The sum of all the smiles on Luna's face over the past 19 years couldn't match the number of smiles she'd had these past few nights. They played until 10:30 before heading back upstairs. Under the burning gaze of Cole full of ulterior motives chun, Luna bit her lip, lowered her head, and went to take a shower, her face flushed red. She had showered last night, too, but tonight she wanted another one. Because Director Young was at her grandmother's house, far away. She wasn't here tonight. As she showered, Luna's mind raced. What if he hears me? That would be so embarrassing. I'll just have to cover my mouth with my hand. In the living room, Cole, pretending to watch TV, was practically vibrating with excitement. Jasmine isn't here. It was his room, after all. He had every right to sleep in his own bed. Yes, that was it. The thought of sleeping with his ultimate fantasy was incredible. His father came out for a glass of water. As he headed back to his room, he caught a glimpse of his son, smiling. But when he looked again, his son was watching the war drama with a serious expression. Strange. Must have been my imagination. He shook his head, went into his room, and locked the door. Not my business. The kid is a CEO now, after all. The moment the door clicked shut, Cole's true, giddy self emerged. He let out a low, gleeful chuckle. Knock, knock, knock. A sudden knock on the front door. Huh? Who could that be so late? Cole wondered. He glanced at the wall clock. It was almost 11. Maybe it was Mrs. Wong from next door? He walked over and opened the door. His expression froze for a second, then instantly bloomed into a joyful smile. Sis, you're finally back. I've been waiting for you for so long. Is that so? Jasmine walked in, her expression neutral. She was wearing a black turtleneck, a gray overcoat, and a scarf. Her eyes scanned the room. Where's Luna? Before Cole could answer, she glanced toward the bathroom. Showering. We got all sweaty setting off fireworks, so she went to wash up again, Cole explained as he closed the door. He stuck his tongue out playfully, but when he turned back around, his face was once again arranged in a warm smile. Sis, I thought you were at your grandma's. It's so far. Why did you come back all of a sudden? I felt like it. It was too crowded over there. No place to sleep, Jasmine said, pulling off her scarf and tossing it at his face. No place to sleep, my ass, Cole thought, making a face behind the cover of the scarf. He pulled it from his face and took a deep sniff. Smells so good. It wasn't perfume, but an indescribable, sweet girlish scent. This has always smelled so good. It was strange. One moment he was dreaming of his ultimate fantasy, and the next he was captivated by Jasmine's scent. What are you sniffing? Look at you, you're disgusting. Jasmine glared at him, but behind the feigned anger, there was a flicker of smug satisfaction. She strode over to the wooden sofa and sat down. She shifted, felt something wasn't right, and looked down. You haven't made your bed yet. You're not planning on sleeping on the sofa anymore. Of course I am. I was just going to watch some TV first. No rush, Cole explained innocently. He shamelessly continued to sniff the scarf as he came over and sat down next to her. His behavior earned him a punch from Jasmine, her pretty face a mixture of annoyance and playful affection. Put that down. You're being such a creep. Sis, it's dangerous for you to come back alone so late, Cole said, wrapping the scarf around his wrist, his tone suddenly serious. It's fine. I took your Uncle Yang's car. Jasmine raised the back of her hand to cover a yawn. Then, how is Uncle Yang getting back? Someone's driving him. Oh, Cole let out a long, internal sigh. His plan to sleep with his ultimate fantasy had gone up in smoke. His sis was just too formidable. There was nothing he could do. The bathroom door opened and Luna emerged. She wasn't surprised to see Jasmine. You're back, Jasmine. She had heard her voice from inside. The initial shyness and timidity she'd felt had instantly turned to disappointment. But it was okay. There would be plenty of opportunities once the semester started. Yeah, I hope the semester starts soon. Yep, I'm back. I'm going to take a shower too. Tomorrow morning, I'm taking you to see the local sites. We're not bringing this guy, Jasmine said, turning to glare at Cole. Cole was completely bewildered. Did she install some kind of creep detector on me? In all these years, she'd never come home early like this. It was always the next afternoon. Even though his grand plan had been foiled, it didn't mean he couldn't sneak a few bites. As soon as he heard the sound of the shower running, Cole shot up, opened the bedroom door, and slipped inside. Luna, who had just gotten into bed, immediately pulled the covers up over her blushing face, leaving only her wide, beautiful eyes peeking out. She had guessed what he was coming in for. He was going to steal a snack. Lou, Cole whispered, zipping to the bedside like a nimble thief and nibbling on her ear. Luna responded in a tiny voice, clutching the edge of the blanket. Her cheeks and neck were burning. She was so nervous. What if Jasmine walks in? When Jasmine came out of the shower, she saw Cole sitting on the sofa watching TV, just as before. Everything seemed normal. Too tired to bother with him, she walked into the bedroom. She found Luna lying on her side, facing away from her, with the covers pulled up to her ears. She seemed to be asleep. Under the covers, a beet-red Luna was gently biting her index finger, her eyelashes fluttering. The heat and tingling sensation still coursing through her body hadn't subsided. She didn't dare move, terrified of being found out. Out in the living room, Cole was restless. With the energy reserves of a horny teenager, he was pacing like a dog in heat. He made his bed and tossed and turned for hours, unable to sleep, still hoping some benevolent soul might come out to check on a poor, lonely guy like him. But no one came. Don't I need you have a pee? Finally, full of resentment, CEO Chen drifted off into a deep sleep. The next morning, the three of them went to Linden Creek's Divine Mountain and the homes of some local historical figures. It wasn't much, but it was an experience for Luna. While climbing the mountain, Cole fantasized that if the two girls got tired, he could hold one with each hand, a perfectly legitimate excuse. Unfortunately, both Jasmine and Luna were excellent climbers. Neither of them broke a sweat. Cole was deeply disappointed. The mountain was home to a memorial for a famous general who had died fighting in the war. The three of them paid their respects. They spent the whole day out before heading home. Cole waited, but by the time the holiday break was ending, Serena still hadn't returned to Linden Creek. He hadn't received a single text from her in 2 days. He had no idea what was happening, but hoped she was safe and happy. He didn't dare message her, afraid her family might see it and put more pressure on her. On the last day of the break, Cole took Jasmine and Luna to the Creekside Galleria for dinner and a movie. He sat in the back row, with one girl on his left and one on his right. Every time the screen went dark, it was a moment of pure bliss. Both girls were blushing furiously, completely unaware of what was happening on the other side of him. Jasmine's side, however, involved retaliatory pinching. Luna, the good girl, just endured it silently. After the movie, on the way home, a black Bentley glided past them and stopped a little way ahead. Cole didn't pay it much mind, but as he walked by, the Bentley's window rolled down, revealing a vaguely familiar face. It was Serena's cousin, Spencer Chun. He had a faint smile on his face. "Little Chun, get in. I want to talk to you for a minute." Cole's heart sank. His future cousin-in-law showing up out of the blue meant Serena was in trouble. Maybe they found out about them, and she'd gotten an earful. He gave Jasmine and Luna a reassuring look and told them to go on home without him. "Cole, be safe," Jasmine said without asking any questions. She trusted him to handle things. Spencer's eyes swept over the two girls' departing figures, a hint of envy in his gaze. Once Cole was in the passenger seat, he asked, "Are those your relatives? Is that why you came to find me?" Cole's eyes flashed with hostility. "I don't care whose cousin you are. You don't get to size up my women." You misunderstand. "I was just asking," Spencer said, catching Cole's displeasure and feeling a bit embarrassed. Remembering his purpose for being there, his expression turned serious. "I'm going to find a spot to park so we can talk." The Bentley started up and drove slowly down the street. It was probably the nicest car in all of Linden Creek, and it turned more than a few heads. Inside, Spencer was silent. Cole was also quiet, his mind racing. This guy had definitely come to find him about Serena, but his current attitude suggested he probably didn't know for sure that they were together. At least, he had no concrete proof. If he did, the tone of this conversation would be very different. Right now, it seemed like he was just here to test the waters. As his thoughts spun, Cole had already prepared a script for the coming conversation. The Bentley pulled over into an empty spot. "Nice car, isn't it?" Spencer said, a hint of smugness in his tone, a subtle air of looking down on him. "I don't know much about cars, so I couldn't say," Cole replied honestly. He could never have afforded a Bentley in his past life, so he never paid them much attention. Obsessing over things you couldn't have was just pointless frustration. "What if I gave you one?" Spencer asked, turning his head to look at the young man's profile. I haven't done anything to deserve such a gift." Cole turned to face his future cousin-in-law. Their eyes met, both of them smiling, but neither backing down. After a full minute of a silent death stare, Spencer was the first to break. The freshman in front of him had a calm, sharp gaze that was years beyond his age. It made Spencer feel like he'd lost face. He came from a prominent family, had seen the world, yet he'd just lost a staring contest to a college kid. Cole calmly broke eye contact. The one thing he had in spades was the nothing-to-lose mentality. Your family can be as powerful as they want, but you don't have 3 heads and 6 arms, and your eyes can't shoot lasers. "I don't want your money, so what can you do to me?" As for Serena, she was his Serena. She was a girl with a mind of her own. Even as a relative, Spencer had no right to bargain with him over her. "I came to find you to talk about Serena," Spencer said, laying his cards on the table. He slid his seat back, leaned comfortably, and pulled out a pack of Marlboros, lighting one. He offered one to Cole. Cole politely refused and cracked the window open. He let out a small laugh. "Talk to me? About Serena? Is there something a college student like me can help with?" "You're dating her, aren't you?" Spencer shot Cole a sidelong glance. "I wish." Cole didn't take the bait. The phrase could be interpreted as yes, we're dating, which wouldn't be a lie. It could also be interpreted as I wanna, but we're not. What his future cousin-in-law thought was his own business. Serena seems to have a different attitude toward you, Spencer said, smoke curling from his lips, his eyes glinting. She does. Cole whipped his head around, his eyes shining with a startling, ecstatic joy. He looked exactly like someone who had been pining for something unattainable and had just received the best news of his life. He asked excitedly, "You're her cousin? You must know her really well. Is that true? Is she really?" "Oh, I forgot. You were a classmate in middle and high school." No wonder her attitude is different. Spencer quickly backpedaled, feigning a sudden memory. Before, he had been sure the two were involved. He hadn't told the family until a couple of days ago, which had led to this trip. Now, he couldn't tell if Cole's reaction was real or fake. That sudden explosion of joy didn't look staged. If he confirmed it, he'd essentially be pushing his cousin into this boy's arms. A non-issue would suddenly become a very real issue. Coming from a political family, Spencer was used to playing it safe. "No, wait. You just said her attitude toward me seemed different. Tell me, how is it different?" Cole pressed, staring at Spencer with puppy dog eyes, continuing to play the part of a man starved for affection. To get the best effect, it was necessary to drag it out. It would greatly increase the authenticity and make the enemy let his guard down. "I must have misread the situation. I forgot you two were classmates for so long." "Heh, my mistake," Spencer said, breathing an internal sigh of relief. Seeing how eager the kid was, with a face that screamed toad lusting after a swan, he figured there was nothing going on with his cousin. Serena would never fall for such a cliché. It was probably just lingering sentiment from their school days. Still, he had a job to do. "Oh, I see." Cole's expression froze. His mouth twitched into a forced, awkward smile, as if he were both embarrassed and unwilling to give up. Then his face settled into a look of regret and longing, his eyes seeming to lose focus. He thought to himself, if I went to acting school, I could definitely win an Oscar. Judging by his cousin-in-law's reaction, he had clearly been conquered by his performance. And indeed, Spencer now fully believed him. He moved on to step 2. "Little Chun, as you know, Serena is my aunt's only daughter. The family has very high expectations for her. She's going to have a very important career in the future, so during her studies, it's not appropriate for her to be distracted by trivial matters." After speaking, he smiled at Cole, hoping the kid would get the message. Cole's expression first went blank, as if he hadn't processed it, then slowly morphed into a bitter smile, as if he understood everything. A light sparked in his eyes, only to be instantly extinguished. His face was a mask of grief, bitterness, and the sorrow of star-crossed lovers. "I understand. She was moved by my affection for her, and now you've come to break us up. Is that it?" "Huh?" Spencer was speechless. Can a person really be this narcissistic? He was now even more certain that his cousin would never like such a self-important guy. He had overestimated this kid. "Little Chun, you're overthinking things. What I mean is, your school days together are in the past. You're both entering a new stage of your lives. Serena's schedule is very tight. She has to study for entrance exams and get her doctorate. After you graduate, you'll have your own life. So, it's best for both of you if you let your high school friendship end here. Don't you think?" Cole's body stiffened. He looked at Spencer in disbelief, a painful expression slowly creeping across his face. His lips trembled as he demanded, "Why are you tearing us apart? Why?" "All right, that's enough. Now you're just being ridiculous. I made it clear. Serena is just your classmate. Why are you so dramatic? I'm telling you not to see her, not to bother her." Spencer was rapidly losing patience. What was the point of trying to persuade someone about a situation that didn't even exist? It was a waste of time. He decided to skip the incentives he had prepared. He'd originally planned to offer some benefits as a trade-off, creating evidence in the process. Now, it seemed completely unnecessary. He'd been a fool to even entertain the idea. Oh. Cole seemed to snap out of his daze, responding with some embarrassment. His low EQ act made Spencer frown. His patience had run out. "All right, you can get out now. I have other things to do." "Oh, okay. Sorry," Cole nodded, opening the door and getting out with a slightly flustered air. Inside, he was sneering. "I may be greedy, but I'm nothing compared to you hypocrites. You pretend you're looking out for Serena, but in reality, it's all about what you can gain. You use people as pawns to trade for your own benefit. Sure, they cared about her, that was a given, but their ulterior motives were just as present, perhaps even the primary driver. Even ordinary families try to marry their daughters off for a dowry or to a rich husband. For a prominent family, especially one in politics, it was all but guaranteed. Cole could only imagine the immense mental pressure a naturally romantic girl like Serena was under. Compared to these people, he considered himself a benevolent and orderly person. His ambition for 3 wives sounded outrageous, But in the grand scheme of things, it was nothing. How many mistresses did those disgraced officials have? How many different households did those capitalists support to spread their seed? And what about the second and third generations of the wealthy? A famous master, calligrapher married and divorced 4 times, still chasing young women at 87. A famous singer did the same, now with an internet influencer. A famous relationship guru was charitably helping female college students. Who knew what these righteous figures were doing in private? Each one of them was 1,000,000 times greedier than he was. His ambition for 3 wives? By comparison, he was practically a paragon of male virtue. He deserved a monument. Watching the Bentley drive away, Cole felt his resolve harden. Serena absolutely, positively, had to be the mother of his children. In the future, he'd make a movie, the story of Cole Chun and his 3 top-tier campus beauty wives. Cole smiled and started walking home. The next morning, the 3 of them were supposed to head back to campus together. But Jasmine stayed behind. Her mother had a follow-up doctor's appointment, and her father couldn't get away, so she had to stay for a few more days. Leo and Cora came to see them off. After saying goodbye to Cole's parents, Jasmine drove Cole and Luna to the high-speed rail station in Rockford. At the station entrance, Jasmine got out of the car and walked up to Cole. "Cole, I need to tell you something." "What is it, sis?" Cole said, feeling a pang of reluctance to leave. Even though it was only for a few days, the distance felt vast and uncomfortable. When they were close, even if they didn't see each other for a day or 2, he felt at ease. In front of Luna, Jasmine leaned in close to Cole's ear. In a low, fierce whisper, she said, "Behave yourself. You hear me?" She shot him a menacing look to drive the point home. "Huh. Oh, I know, sis," Cole replied, his heart skipping a beat. He obediently agreed. Did she find out something? No way. She's probably just giving me a warning. Good. Go on, get inside, Jasmine said, her tone flat. But her eyes were already filled with a soft light. She didn't want to be separated from him at all, not even for a few days. She turned to Luna. "Luna, you 2 should head in. Be safe on the way." "I will." Jasmine, Luna nodded obediently. Jasmine had told her to stop calling her Director Yang, saying it felt too formal. Luna liked calling her Jasmine. It felt more intimate. Under Jasmine's intense, caring gaze, Cole led Luna toward the station entrance. Just before going inside, he turned and looked back. He could still see her standing there, watching them. Cole waved, and Jasmine waved back. It would only be a few days, but a feeling of deep reluctance hung between them. The station was a sea of people. They had bought their tickets in advance and had already refunded one. After a long wait in line to pick up the physical tickets, they boarded the train smoothly. They had a 2-person seat. Luna felt incredibly relaxed. This was her second time on a high-speed train with Cole. Unlike the first time when she was on high alert, this time she could openly enjoy the journey. Before, he had fed her. Now, she was feeding him. Cole didn't have to do a thing. He just had to open his mouth to get a spicy snack. The moment he finished, a small hand would reach over with a napkin to wipe the oil from his lips. His own hands were free to rest on her firm, round thigh. After they finished eating, Cole wrapped an arm around Luna's shoulders. Their heads rested together. In the pauses between conversation, their lips would touch lightly before parting again. Maybe the people in the next row or behind them noticed, but did it matter? The 2-hour journey passed in a blur. Dear passengers, if it weren't for the announcement, they could have kept kissing and talking for hours. Once they were near Eastwood University, they went to a bank to withdraw some crisp, new cash. The banks had all reopened after the holiday. They also bought some red envelopes. These were for the morning. With their preparations almost complete, Luna bit her lip, her eyes shimmering. She fiddled with her fingers and spoke softly, "So, I'll head back now." "Back where?" Cole asked deliberately. Back to. Luna looked conflicted, unable to get the word dorm out of her mouth. Cole grabbed her small hand and grinned. "Of course you're coming back to our place. You still have to help me stuff these bonuses." Luna blushed, lowering her head slightly, the corners of her pursed lips turning up. Okay. They bought some fruit and snacks. After dinner, they returned to their apartment, 2201 at the Golden Bay Residences, their arms full of bags. Seeing Luna immediately start to stuff the envelopes, Cole, full of ulterior motives, quickly stopped her. "Lou, let's take a shower first. We're all dusty from the trip. We can stuff the envelopes in bed later. It's warmer, and if we get tired, we can just go straight to sleep." Luna's face instantly turned crimson. Her heart pounded. The sun had barely set. She hadn't even broken a sweat. So what dust was he talking about? Go straight to sleep? Could we? She squeaked out a soft okay. Thinking about what was about to happen, she couldn't even look at him. Full of shy anticipation, she changed into her slippers and went into the master bathroom. As soon as the water started running, Cole rushed into the room to check his equipment, making sure everything was in order. He then placed the cash and envelopes on the bed. A short while later, Luna emerged from the bathroom, glanced shyly at the bed, and sat down, trying to look composed. Just as she was thinking about letting her feet dry, she saw Cole, the ultimate simp, already there with the towel, wrapping it around her pale feet and carefully drying them. "All right, get in bed," Cole said, and his words made Luna's heart race again. She mumbled a soft and, still in her jeans, slipped under the covers. She was too embarrassed to undress in front of him. Cole smiled secretly and rushed into the bathroom himself. When he came out, clean and refreshed, Luna's clothes were already folded on the nightstand. She was lying on her stomach, the blanket forming a small mountain over her. Cole's heart burned with desire. He quickly dried his feet, lifted the edge of the blanket on her side, and pretended he was just taking a shortcut to get to the other side of the bed. Luna, unaware of his evil intentions, was trying her best to focus on stuffing the envelopes. And then, he accidentally slipped. Whoa! He fell, not too heavily, right on her back. The mattress was so springy that the small weight made it bounce several times. Luna forgot all about the envelopes and buried her face in the pillow, the strange, close pressure making her too mortified to look up. It wasn't until morning that they finished stuffing the last few envelopes. Their work efficiency had been abysmal. Cole took Luna to the Headline Today office, and they stood at the door of Suite 1520, waiting to greet the returning employees. It was a holiday tradition. Being more enthusiastic than your employees when it came to handing out money and rewards would earn you a greater return in loyalty. It was all about emotional value. The first to arrive was Wyatt, with Yvonne right behind him. "Happy New Year, Mr. Chun." "Happy New Year, Cole." Cole handed them each a red envelope. The manager's bonuses were $100. The lowest was $20 for regular staff, and team leads got $50. "Happy New Year, boss." Yvonne glanced at Luna first, then beamed at Cole. She had been eagerly awaiting her return to work. Being at home was boring. Plus, she knew about Cole's plan to visit every advertiser. And who would accompany him on that trip? Her, of course. "Happy New Year, Yvonne." Cole smiled and gave her a $100 envelope. One by one, the rest of the team arrived. The entire promotions department showed up. You'd have to be crazy not to be enthusiastic about getting a bonus. Everyone pitched in to tidy up the office and check the equipment. Once the company grew, they need to have people on duty over the holidays. While the others were busy, Cole called Luna into the small conference room. "Lou, watch what I do. Once you learn it, you can handle this for me on the schedule I set." "Okay." Luna didn't know what he was asking her to do, but she agreed anyway. Cole opened his laptop and plugged in a USB drive. It contained the securely stored private keys for his Bitcoin. He logged into the MT, Gox exchange, and checked the market. The asking price was generally around $1.30, a welcome increase from 6 months ago. However, trading volume was extremely low. The largest single transaction was only for 1,000 coins. The market was dormant. Basically, no one was paying much attention to it yet, other than to use it for dark web transactions. As he observed the market, he explained to Luna what Bitcoin was. She understood it immediately. It wasn't that complicated if you just thought of it as a currency rather than getting bogged down in the blockchain concept. Cole listed 10,000 coins for sale, which was the largest single order on the exchange at the time. In this era, you couldn't just post Bitcoin and expect it to sell. You needed a bit of luck. And it wasn't a case of the more you sold, the lower the price. On the contrary, the more it circulated, the faster the price would rise. More transactions meant more fees for the exchange, which took a cut from both sides. And they didn't take cash. They took a percentage of the Bitcoin itself. The essence of Bitcoin wasn't the coin, but the string of characters. 10,000 Bitcoins were made up of many such strings, and fees were charged per character. After someone bought the 10,000 Bitcoins, they would need to verify the authenticity of the strings. If Cole wanted to speed up the verification, he'd have to increase the transaction fee, which he could set himself. At this point in time, most people who saw a transaction like this would just assume you were paying for something illicit. That's what Bitcoin was for. Cole wasn't in a hurry. He didn't set a higher fee for faster verification. Someone would eventually buy it because certain people needed this kind of digital token. "Do you remember the login and operating procedure, Lou?" "I remember." "Good. Check back on it in a few days." Cole logged out of the exchange, ejected the USB drive, and handed it and the laptop to Luna. "Keep this USB drive safe. It's best to tie it to a small lanyard." Luna was meticulous. It was safer with her than with him. "Okay, I'll protect it, Luna said. She didn't fully grasp the value of what was on it, but she would do whatever Cole said. Cole planned to sell off his Bitcoin in batches, but he wouldn't be cashing out quickly. He still needed to set up a proper bank account for it. Otherwise, withdrawing the funds would be a huge hassle. After handling that, they rushed to the Tea Alchemist's original location before 10. The tea shop was naturally a lower priority than Headline today, and with 3 locations, he couldn't give out bonuses at all of them simultaneously. He gave Wendy, the future supervisor, a $100 bonus. The other 2 store managers got $50 and the staff got $20. Brianna and Felicity didn't arrive until the afternoon, so they weren't on time and didn't get a bonus. Rules were rules. Otherwise, what would the other employees think? But out of consideration for his CFO's friends, Cole took the 4 of them out to dinner that night to soothe Brianna and Felicity's disappointment over their lost bonuses. With those 2 around, Luna went back to her dorm to sleep, saying she needed to study. Her passion for learning was even greater now. She wished she could skip a few grades and get to the advanced accounting courses sooner. During the day, she had clearly sensed that Cole would soon need much more complex financial accounting. The next morning, Cole took Yvonne to visit their advertisers. It was partly a New Year's greeting, partly to get feedback and strengthen their relationships. He had scheduled the appointments in advance, visiting those who were available. He skipped Jordan Liu, who was on vacation somewhere warm. So he started with Vanessa Fan. Half an hour later, they were in the office of the Caspian Grill and Buffet's parent company in a high-rise near the gallery. The company had grown. There was now a receptionist and an accountant, in addition to Vanessa herself. A very lean setup. Little Chun, Headline today is really something else now, Vanessa said with a smile. She was wearing a coat with a plush fur collar. You're too kind, Ms. Fan. I'm just messing around with a small-time operation, Cole said humbly. In front of a rich woman who owned multiple offices in this building, humility was the right play. Maybe he could get a discount on rent here in the future. She must have been quite pretty when she was younger, probably looked a lot like Yvonne. But time had left its mark. Cole felt she looked a little more worn out after the holiday. Oh, stop pretending. Mr. Carter said you're a sharp negotiator, a cunning little devil who's good at putting on an act, Vanessa said, playfully exposing him. But her smile wasn't malicious. It was warm, almost affectionate. Maybe it was because he'd helped her hide in that closet. Mr. Carter has a great sense of humor. Cole laughed awkwardly. He never expected that kind of feedback. He had been calling Vanessa Annie so sweetly, and Ron Carter wasn't giving him any face at all. Didn't you call him Uncle? Why is he Mr. Carter now? Vanessa seemed to enjoy teasing him, pressing on relentlessly. Right, I did. But when I talk about him to other people, it's more respectful to use his formal title. Black lines formed on Cole's forehead. Are these 2 best friends or something? He felt a twinge of resentment. Uncle Carter, if you don't renew for another $15,000, how can you face me? Giggle, you clever boy. All right, let's talk business. I'll renew for another $15,000. I'm planning to open another location near the university's business school. A spot just opened up. Vanessa's words were music to Cole's ears. Ms. Fan, we already have 100% coverage around the business school. I'll write a whole new series of articles for you, a grand promotional push. You get results. I trust you, Vanessa said with a dazzling smile that was surprisingly alluring, yet still held the warmth of an elder looking at a junior. She paused, as if a thought occurred to her, and her smile faded. Little Chun, someone might be trying to make a move on Headline today. You should be prepared. Thank you for the warning, Ms. Fan. Headline today is my life's work. I have complete confidence in it, and in myself, Cole said, his tone firm. Any hesitation would shake his advertiser's confidence. He even suspected that the woman in front of him had entertained the same thought. That's good to hear. Vanessa chuckled lightly. To be honest, I had the same idea myself, but I had a feeling you wouldn't sell. You're right, Ms. Fan. Headline today is my passion. No matter how much they offer, I'll never sell, Cole said with a small smile. Just as I thought. He felt a new level of respect for Vanessa's honesty. As for whoever was plotting against him, he wouldn't underestimate them, but he wouldn't overestimate them either. If they had the guts, they could try to copy his business model. By the time they figured it out, he'd have already pivoted to a mobile app. With continued R&D investment, no one would be able to catch up. They would just end up losing all their money. Still, he needed to be careful about certain things, like maintaining the wholesome image of his content, to avoid giving anyone ammunition. Little Chun, if Headline today ever needs funding, you come to me. I can't offer a huge amount, but I can manage a couple of million, and I can help you secure loans, Vanessa said, her gaze strange, a mix of admiration and warmth. Cole couldn't quite decipher it. Thank you, Ms. Fan. I'll remember that. If I ever do need help, I'll be sure to ask. Good? Come by and visit when you have time. Lynn was just talking about you over the holiday, Vanessa added suddenly, her smiling eyes hinting at a deeper meaning. Aha, of course, Ms. Fan. I'll definitely stop by, Cole replied, his heart skipping a beat. He didn't dare engage with that comment and pretended he hadn't heard it. That Lynn girl was not his type. After chatting a bit more, Cole and Yvonne took their leave. Once they were out of the building, Yvonne couldn't hold back any longer. Boss, she's practically trying to recruit you as a son-in-law. A multi-million-dollar investment, help with loans, probably a ton of real estate, too. Aren't you tempted? Tempted my ass.